As we true crime fans know, there are several classes of murderers. You have your common or garden murderers with generally one victim, often a heat of the moment event that gets out of control, or perhaps some sort of plot to remove someone considered an obstacle to some greater need. At the other end of the spectrum, we have the serial killers, who have at least 2 or 3 victims, depending which definition you read or indeed which country you reside in. But the key with serial killers is that there will be a cooling off period between murders, and often considered as something of an in-between for these two extremes. You have mass killers and spree killers. Mass killers will kill multiple people, but this is a single continuous event, usually in a single location, while spree killers will have multiple victims, but these will often be in different locations, but they will be so close together time-wise as to consider the murders part of a continuous event with no cooling off period. In today's case, we have a spree killer operating in and around, where else, Florida. The interesting part, for me at least, of this case is in working out whether the person with him is an accomplice or a hostage. This is the case of Billy Boyette, and this is Murder of Crows. So we find ourselves in Florida again, and while there is a degree of movement during the spree that I will come on to discuss later, our story really has its roots in 2 particular counties of Florida, Santa Rosa and Escambia, right at the western edge of the Florida Panhandle. Santa Rosa County is a county located in the northwest portion of the US state of Florida. As of 2020, the population was 188,000, and its county seat is in Milton. And some of the other major communities in Santa Rosa County are Navarre, Pace and Gulf Breeze. What a lovely name. Navarre is the most populated community, with a population of approximately 45,000 residents. Santa Rosa County has seen remarkable growth in population, most specifically in the communities of Navarre, Pace and Gulf Breeze. And the county is a quickly growing tourist destination because of its access to both beaches and protected wilderness areas for kayaking, hiking and camping, making it something of a one-stop shop. As an aside, the prohibition of alcohol in Santa Rosa County was only repealed in 2005. Escambia County is the westernmost and oldest county in the US state of Florida. As of 2020, the county's population was around 322,000. The county seat and largest city is Pensacola. Escambia, when originally formed along with St. John, was one of the two original counties in Florida. The counties being formed after the US acquired Florida in 1818. The area had been inhabited for thousands of years by indigenous peoples of varying cultures. Historic American Indian tribes at the time of European American settlement in the area were the Pensacola and the Muskogee, who the latter of whom were known among the English as the Creek. The county was named for the Escambia River, and the name Escambia itself may have been derived from the Greek word shambia, meaning clear water. Between 1821 and 1925, 20 other counties were formed from the vast expanse that was the original Escambia, which took in the entire panhandle and extended significantly south. Although much smaller today, Escambia remains notable, particularly on account of containing the well-known city of Pensacola. In this particular aside, we learn that its county jail doesn't have perhaps the best reputation. In 2011, the US Justice Department's Civil Rights Division issued a letter detailing the results of its investigation into conditions at Escambia County Jail, a jail which houses roughly 1,300 prisoners. And the department found that although Sheriff David Morgan had recently implemented a series of reforms, conditions at the jail still routinely violated prisoners' constitutional rights. Whether you believe prisoners should have constitutional rights is neither here nor there. Specifically, the department concluded that known systemic deficiencies, stemming mainly from staffing shortages, subjected prisoners to excessive risk of assault by other prisoners and to inadequate mental health care. And it's Santa Rosa and Escambia counties that are the backdrop for our case. And these counties were the stomping ground of a very, very bad man. We will look at the spree in a little while. But first, I want to give you some background to William Billy Boyette, so you can have a flavour of the kind of person that we are dealing with. Born on the 28th of November 1972, Billy Boyette was a wayward character from childhood. And it didn't take long for his actions to turn nasty and vicious. Boyette's brother, Brian DeWolf, gave some indications after the heinous spree that we will discuss in a while. But his brother's words give a chilling insight into the youth of this, I guess, apprentice cockwomble. With De Wolf saying of Boyette's childhood years, "We had St. Bernards, and we raised them, and one of them kind of sidestepped into him, knocking him down. And now he's 4 years old, picked up a ball-peen hammer, and knocked the dog out. 13, 14, he raped. I guess they were in junior high. I guess they were at a party, some girl. He ended up at some boys' camp or whatever it was. He spent like 6 or whatever months it was at the boys' camp in Massachusetts. Blamed my mother for not coming up with $25,000 for his legal expenses so he wouldn't have to go to jail. Everything is always somebody else's fault. Somebody made him do it. He's never admitted to doing nothing wrong." I think we all know the type, don't we? His countless stints in jail and prison only made him worse and more savvy about the justice system, with Brian saying, "All his life, I've sat in courtrooms, he's a jailhouse lawyer. He knows everything." So even his own brother was strongly critical of this man who acted first and thought about consequences later, if ever. Was it any surprise that Boyette went on to have a series of abusive relationships and numerous violent offences recorded against him? It was rhetorical, don't feel you need to answer that. Boyette's troubles in Santa Rosa County go as far back as 2002, where he's faced charges of grand theft, drug trafficking, felony battery, possession of a firearm, armed robbery with a firearm, aggravated assault by threat, and resisting arrest. Well done if you had those on your bingo card. In many cases, charges were eventually dropped. Prior to 2014, he had been arrested at least 3 other times in Escambia and Santa Rosa counties in as many years, on battery, assault, kidnapping and weapons charges. But he had never served more than a year in jail for any of the offences. Boyette was accused in 2014 in Santa Rosa County of beating another girlfriend because she came home late from work and smelled of alcohol. He told her that if she reported his abuse, he would drag a trial out and make her life miserable. The victim was so in fear for her life that she initially lied to police, telling them Boyette hadn't touched her despite the redness and swelling on her face. Eventually, she told police Boyette had threatened to kill her a number of times, and this was according to the arrest report, and that he was the offender in another violent case where she had told police she was attacked by a stranger. Charges in the case were dropped when the victim recanted once again, as they so often do on account of being terrified. In June of 2015, a Pensacola woman called 911 and whispered to dispatchers that her boyfriend was trying to kill her. She said that he had stabbed her multiple times in the arms and legs. He had strangled her and taken away her phone in an attempt to keep her from seeking help. When Escambia County Sheriff's Office deputies arrived on the scene, the victim was bleeding and crying as she directed police to a bedroom where her attacker had passed out with a large kitchen knife in his hand. In a surprise to no one in the bedroom, they found Boyette. Boyette was booked into Escambia County Jail on a $260,000 bond, facing charges of kidnapping, battery, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, and obstructing justice. He spent less than a year in custody before he was released on June the 17th, 2016, when prosecutors were forced to drop the charges because his victim couldn't be found because she was wanted on her own criminal charges. Blimey, the circles these people move in. Within 14 hours of his release, the U.S. Marshals arrested Boyette in Santa Rosa County on a probation violation, but he served only 3 months in jail. Boyette's past was peppered with frequent but short prison stints, and it seems that these did little to change his behavior in the long term. Now, it would seem that the deadly spree that would occur in late January and early February of 2017 was started because of Boyette's anger at the girlfriend who went to the police in mid-January 2017 with accusations of violence. It seemed that Boyette abused Alicia Greer so badly in late 2016 and early 2017 that she had ultimately been hospitalized for scalp stitches and required an MRI. After she was discharged from the hospital, she stayed with her mother for a few days. A spokesman with the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office said that Boyette faced battery, kidnapping, and grand theft auto charges. Boyette allegedly beat Alicia and choked her until she was nearly unconscious, after accusing her of cheating on him. He was accused of holding Alicia hostage in her own home and then stealing her car. When Boyette was gone, Alicia took a cab to a local hospital and called 911. After staying with her mum for a few days, she was worried that her mum might be at risk from Boyette. So Alicia, who was 30 at the time, went with a friend, Jacqueline Moore, who was 39, to hide away in a motel to allow the dust to settle. But Boyette located Alicia and went to the motel to confront her, with him making threats that he would carry out unless she dropped the charges against him. Presumably she refused, because he fatally shot both women. It seems that Jacqueline Moore was just collateral damage, being in the right place, supporting her friend, but at the wrong time.
This was the scene a little more than a week ago at the Emerald Sands Inn. A hotel employee got a report of gunshots and called 911.
And all I did was put the key in the door, open the door, and I seen her laying halfway in the bathroom, him laying in the bed, and everything's covered in blood.
Are they dead?
I don't know, ma'am. I didn't walk in.
Did they look dead to you?
Yes, ma'am.
They look dead.
The employee recounting the scene where Alicia Greer and a second woman, Jacqueline Moore, lost their lives. Greer's father says he'll always hang on to Alicia's memory.
Aubrey and Quinlan, they are spitting images of her mother. They're 5 and 8, and when they're running around the house, they're Alicia.
After the bodies were discovered, Boyette was high on the suspect list given his history with Alicia. And they had details of Alicia's car that he had stolen, so they could track the shit biscuit. But as they tracked him, they soon realized that he wasn't alone. He seemed to have a woman with him. But was she a willing partner in crime, or was she being coercively controlled? This was the question. As they followed the trail of the brutal man, they were also working to find the identity of his companion on this road trip, who first appeared on surveillance on the 2nd of February. In several of the stops they are known to have made, CCTV evidence showed the woman entering shops alone, yet never attempting to raise the alarm or ask for help. As police investigated the double homicide, they discovered that prior to the murder incident, Boyette had been living with a woman named Mary Rhys. And Rhys matched the description of the woman travelling with Boyette. But even though they had a likely identity, they still did not know whether she was with him of her own free will, or if she was under some kind of duress. But even as the police were generating leads and information, another horrific incident occurred. Peggy Phillips Bros was killed during a carjacking in Alabama on the 3rd of February. Presumably she was killed purely because Boyette recognized the need to change the car that he was using. Then on the 6th of February, Kayla Crocker, a young mother living in Pensacola, was the victim of a home invasion, where she was tied up and shot in front of the crib in which her 2-year-old son was fortunately unharmed. Another blessing was that Kayla's 6-year-old daughter Rhea was staying with her father when the attack happened. Once again, Kayla's car was stolen. Kayla initially survived the attack, but died from her injuries in hospital the next day.
Call this morning about 6:30. Of course, the address we're currently at is 8460 Beulah Road in Escambia County, Florida. We got a call from the victim's mother. Our victim's named Kayla Crocker, spelled with a K, K-A-Y-L-A, and then Crocker, common spelling. We're obviously not going to reach a lot of information on Miss Crocker. She is currently in one of the local hospitals. She did sustain a gunshot wound. There was additionally, she had a 2-year-old son who was also present in the house. He is unharmed. To the best of our knowledge, he did not witness this. He seems to be relatively calm. He's with his grandmother right now. We're currently in the information that we need to get out, that we need, again, as always, we need the media's assistance on this. We're looking for a 2006 white Chevy Cobalt, Florida tag 9613BJ. That's 9613BJ. There's damage to the back right passenger door. It's also got a skull and crossbone stick-on the back window. Again, a 2006 white Chevy Cobalt 9613BJ, Florida tag. We do believe that Mr. Boyette was engaged in this home invasion and attempted murder. We have reason to believe, from information that we're getting from some of the surrounding businesses and from some of the neighbors, that they committed the crime in this home, proceeded up Beulah Road, went to one of the local Shell stations, made a purchase there, and then also went to the Hardee's and had some breakfast. Again, we're pulling all available videotapes from all of these locations and interviewing all the witnesses. We also want to put out, because it'll be difficult for them to change it, currently Miss Mary Rice has dyed her hair orange. She was noticed, and again, her hair is orange. The reason why we're putting that out is again, she'll have to change her hair color. To the information that we received to this time, Mr. Boyette did not exit the vehicle, but some of the clerks and people that work in these fast food areas and at the Shell station did get a look through the vehicle window, and they're reasonably assured that it is in fact him. Once again, our suspect is mobile, so we're drawing in the resources of the Florida Highway Patrol, coordinating the information also with the Alabama Highway Patrol. Right now, that's the specific information that I have. I will attempt to answer any questions that you may have. I want to assure the public that we've called in all of our available resources. We have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement engaged, U.S. Marshals are engaged, of course ourselves, Santa Rosa, any law enforcement agency in our area, and of course out of state with Baldwin County and the appropriate police departments and Alabama Highway Patrol. Again, we need your assistance. He cannot hide unless someone does not report something that they have seen. We don't care how small your information is or how insignificant you may think it is at the time. Please, please pick up your phone and give us a call. Do not, I repeat, do not attempt to contact or engage with Mr. Boyette. This gentleman has gone far and above, what we normally deem as incorrigible. This gentleman is a killer. He's shown that proclivity time and time again. With that, I'll answer any questions that I can.
By now, police were convinced that Mary Rice was a willing accomplice in Boyette's ongoing spree. Rice had known Boyette, or at least had known of him, since she had started writing to the felon in prison in 2016. Perhaps an indication of hybristophilia. Rice had no significant criminal history, but there was enough to suggest that she was definitely on the wrong side of the righteousness equation. A family member attempted to get a restraining order against Rhys, claiming that she was harassing her autistic child in 2015. But a judge said there weren't enough grounds for an injunction. Prosecutors had dropped a marijuana possession charge in 2007. And she had numerous traffic offences when she drove unlicensed, saying at least once that she had to drive to get the kids from school. So there were brushes with criminality, either as a victim or an associate, since she was as young as 11 years old. Rhys herself was sexually abused as a child by her stepfather and was battling drug and alcohol dependence by the time she was a teenager. Not that any of this excuses violent crime, but she was definitely vulnerable and perhaps easily influenced. By this time, police were getting ever closer to Boyette's tail, and while authorities warned the public of the fugitives and the danger that they posed, the net was certainly closing in around the miscreant couple.
The Escambia County Sheriff's Office and surrounding law enforcement agencies, as well as the State Attorney's Office, in the continued pursuit, hopefully leading to the arrest of William Boyette and Mary Rhys. I think it's appropriate for the victims of this, our communities, and specifically for the families, that we set the solemnity of this occasion. Our Santa Rosa County victims were discovered on January the 31st in the Emerald Sands Inn in Milton, Florida. The two deceased were identified as 30-year-old Alicia Ann Greer, Escambia County resident, and 39-year-old Jacqueline Jeanette Moore. Baldwin County victims shot in their driveway on February the 3rd, 52-year-old Peggy Brose. And unfortunately today in Escambia County we have our first victim, 28-year-old Kayla Crocker of Beulah. It is difficult to speak about this, ladies and gentlemen, because these are the cases that we in law enforcement fear, where we have what is apparently, with the last two victims anyway, a random selection. And so therefore, much to our disappointment and much primarily to our frustration, we're chasing a lot of shadows and a lot of rumors. And so part of the reason for today's press conference is we're going to give our entreaties to you in the media and also to citizens in our community. While it is our goal here to provide as much information as possible about the progress of this case, I will also let you know that those of you who are blowing up social media are creating tremendous issues for us. There is a difference between an informed electorate, if you will, or an informed citizenry when they are provided complete, clear, and accurate information. When you put out information that this murder was as a result of a Craigslist post, which turns out to be completely false, or when you put out information on your different social media platforms and groups that you have formed that Mary Rhys was shot and killed or someone has been arrested, then understand something. That requires a reaction from us in law enforcement because we do not have that luxury. We cannot stand before you here today and give you wild speculation or tell you how we think it should be or how the case should progress. We must take the time to back up and verify each and every fact that we place forward. So we ask, please, for your assistance. And I will tell you that some of these rumors have been fueled by the media. When you get people contacting your Facebook pages that someone was arrested or someone was shot and killed, etc., and you put that out over your media sources, then it lends credence to that very rumor. And then our phones blow up, and we get asked why they weren't informed by the sheriff's office or what's the status of this particular case. And so again, we would, beg you, if you will, to please work with us on this case and not at cross purposes. We would like to thank Lamar Billboards. As you well know, we have a contract with Lamar, which they put out all of our information at no cost to our community for the state of Florida and also for the state of Alabama and any other place that we may find that we suspect Mr. Boyette and his accomplice, Ms. Rhys, has fled to. They've agreed to use the electronic billboards across wherever they need to go in order for us to continue to pursue him and his image. Hi everyone, I'm Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan. I need your help and your community needs your help. We have the photos of William Boyette and Mary Rhys posted everywhere in Escambia County. These are two killers loose in our community. We can capture Mr. Boyette and Ms. Rhys with your assistance. Call 911. Do not contact this individual. Do not make any contact whatsoever. He has already killed 3 women and possibly a 4th who is now in critical condition.
On February the 7th, they were traced to a motel in Georgia, booked in Rhys's name. Law enforcement surrounded the motel where Rhys surrendered, but Boyette had no intention of going back to prison, and after a tense standoff, eventually shot himself in the motel room. Of course, any first-hand information would now have to come from Mary Rhys, who immediately took on the role of the scared and controlled victim of Billy Boyette.
He's a monster. He's serious about everything he says. He was gonna kill me if I didn't do what he said. Only by God's grace am I sitting here today.
Take a deep breath, Mary. You're okay right now. Just take a deep breath. To your knowledge, did the incident at the Emerald Sands Inn, did that happen before he picked you up?
Yes. Yes. To my knowledge.
All right, where did you go from there?
There we went riding, and he made me go into a Walmart.
Did he stay out in the car?
No, he was in Walmart.
Okay.
He was watching me, and I know he could see me in the store.
What did you get at Walmart?
Ammunition, 38.
What happens then?
I don't know, he comes back with white car.
So he goes off with a dark SUV and comes back with a white car?
Yes. He has somebody with him. They had a gun on me, they're in the back, and I didn't even get a good glimpse of what they were or anything. And I had to get in the car and drive. They got a gun to my side. I had to follow him to a parking area.
When you got into the car to drive, you got a person holding a gun to you, correct?
Yes.
Where did this other guy you're talking about, where did he come from?
I don't know, and I've never seen him after.
Okay, that's not true. And I'll tell you why it's not.
No, we did.
Mary, listen to me.
Okay.
If I were to tell you that numerous people saw you and Billy following the person in the white car to her home, where the white car was taken, you were with Billy because you guys were seen together, okay? There wasn't a third person there. It was just you and Billy, right?
Right.
Okay. Why did you tell me that?
Because I'm scared.
Well, I understand you're scared. The truth makes more sense than the story at this point, you know what I mean?
That's the truth.
Okay. Well, thank
And
you.
that's the only thing that embellished on.
Okay, thank you for being honest.
I'm scared.
I know you are.
In video in a murder case involving a serial killer and his alleged accomplice.
The prime suspect, Billy Boyette, died in February last year after a 3-state crime spree that left 4 people dead. His accused accomplice is now in jail, awaiting trial. The case against Mary Rice is moving through the courts now in Alabama and Florida. The state attorney's office says she is charged with her alleged role in the murders of Jacqueline Moore and Alicia Greer, both of Milton. She faces 1 count of murder in Escambia County for the death of Kayla Crocker of Beulah, and 1 count of murder in Baldwin County for the murder of Peggy Brose of Lillian, Alabama. 44-year-old Billy Boyette took his own life in a Georgia motel where Rice was taken into custody. According to an autopsy performed on Boyette in Georgia, he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the left temple. He was found seated against a wall with 3 guns around him. There was no indication of any drugs or alcohol in his system. The autopsy on Escambia County victim Kayla Crocker shows she died from a single gunshot wound to the front of her head. The report also notes she was an organ and tissue donor. We also obtained a video from the Greer's Cash Saver store on Lillian Highway. Authorities say it shows Rice and Boyette arriving in separate vehicles, a black SUV and a white Chrysler belonging to Alabama murder victim Peggy Brose. 2 people are seen removing items from the SUV and loading them into the Chrysler. The pair leaves about 6 minutes later in the Chrysler, leaving the SUV behind. That Chrysler was found the next day in a wooded area off 9 Mile Road in Pensacola. After the Escambia County killing, the murder spree ended in Georgia. Prosecutors say they'll use the video you're seeing now to suggest Rice was a willing participant in the crimes and had many chances to get away from Boyette. Mary Rice is due back in Escambia County Court on May 22nd. When her trials in Florida are completed, she'll be sent back to Alabama to answer the charges there.
But the police weren't buying what she was selling, since they had full background on Boyette and Rice. And Rice was ultimately charged and taken to trial as the authorities sought justice for the 4 women killed, as Boyette and Rice looked to evade authorities. The trial happened in 2018 with the prosecution showing her as a willing participant in Boyette's crimes, and the defense portraying Rice as just another one of Boyette's victims.
Hi, so this is Emma Kennedy. I'm a crime reporter with the Pensacola News Journal, just kind of giving a rundown of the first day of testimony in the Mary Rice trial. Today they did opening statements and got through about 12 witnesses of the estimated 50 to 70. It looks like the state is going in chronological order at this point. So all we've heard about is the January 31 double homicide involving Alicia Greer and Jacqueline Moore. We've heard from a lot of law enforcement, a couple of witnesses. There was one gentleman who was staying in the room above who said he had heard gunshots, and there was a security sort of front desk lady who discovered the bodies about 7 a.m. that morning. Today was really the first time we heard about the relationship between Rhys and Boyette. Her attorney, Kenneth Brooks, said that Mary Rhys was a victim and she had, a lot of injuries when police got her into custody, after a standoff in Georgia. He said that she had some cigarette burns, like some pistol whip kind of marks on her forehead, and, she had some bruising across her body as well. They said that the two started writing to each other in 2016 while Billy Boyette was in jail, and according to Mr. Brooks, that's not unusual for her. She wrote to a lot of inmates and then even went so far as to let them stay in her house, upon their release to kind of get back on their feet, I think is the impression that I got from that sort of a relationship. So from there, the state is saying that an actual relationship, a romantic relationship developed. And there was some text messages back and forth, saying I love you, those sorts of things, in the couple of days before the double homicide. We heard from a witness who is one of Rhys's friends for about the last decade, so they've known each other for quite a while. She said she met Boyette a couple of days before the double homicide for the first time, and he apparently was saying something along the lines of I need to get back or get even or something like that with his ex-girlfriend, who was Alicia Greer. This witness said that he didn't say Greer by name, he just said an ex-girlfriend, and then once this woman heard about what had happened a few days later through news stories and stuff like that, she sort of pieced it together and assumed that was who he was talking about. This friend said that those couple of days before, Boyette and Rhys had friends look after their two dogs who were at Mary Rhys's trailer in Milton because they were going on a camping trip, and they had planned this camping trip. And, like I said, a couple of days later this murder happened, and so the friend sort of got suspicious and tried to call Rhys, and she did call back a couple of days later and essentially sort of said I'm fine, which came out through a couple of other witnesses today as well, that she had messaged her mother and said she was fine, just sat it down for a couple of days. A mother-in-law who had custody of Rhys's 3 children and said she would be back in a few days. So far we've really heard from a lot of law enforcement and a few of Mary's friends, but chronologically we're at about 2 days after that double homicide, where the two are going through central Florida. So it doesn't appear from what the defense has said so far that there is any dispute about whether Mary Rhys was with him this whole time. It's just about what role she played and whether she was there willingly or not. So this trial is expected to go for at least a week, possibly 2, with a lot of witnesses.
Where did Kayla live?
8460 Beulah Road.
I think your hands are over the mic. Can you say that again?
8460 Beulah Road. That's cool.
I know this probably sounds like a dumb question, but is that located in Escambia County, Florida?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had Kayla lived there?
About 2 years.
And Ms. Crocker, where did you live?
8472 Beulah Road.
And how close or how far was that from Kayla's home?
2 homes.
Did Kayla work back then?
She worked at McDonald's.
And do you know which McDonald's?
On Pine Forest.
Did Kayla work a regular shift?
It was mixture of different hours.
Okay. Did she typically work mornings, afternoons, nights?
Mostly mornings.
And did Kayla have a child that lived with her back then?
Yes, 18-month-old son.
When Kayla went to work, who would typically watch her child?
I would, but that particular morning, she was supposed to take him to my daughter.
Okay. Did Kayla have a car?
Yes.
What kind of car?
2006 Chevy Cobalt.
What color?
White.
And did Kayla's car have any distinctive marks or any kind of damage that you recall?
The passenger rear door was smashed in, and on the back trunk had a magnet with a skull and crossbones on it.
And do you know if it had any mechanical issues?
It didn't run the best.
Okay. What about any of the doors? Do you have the door handles work?
The driver's side door handle on the outside was broken, but the rest of them were fine.
Do you know if did the locks work?
They were fine.
Did the windows work?
Yes.
And if the door handle on the driver's side was broken off, could you still get in?
There was a piece of rubber that stuck out. If you grabbed a hold of that and pulled it, you could open the door.
Any problems with any of the other doors?
No, they were fine.
Could you unlock the car from inside? If you're inside, could you?
Yes, it had power locks and it also had a little button you could pull it up.
All right. Deep breath. Let me take you to February 6th of 2017. Okay? Do you remember that morning?
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Was Kayla supposed to work the morning of February 6th?
She was supposed to start work at 5:45
AM or PM?
a.m.
Okay. And was she supposed to drop her child off?
She was supposed to drop them off at 5:30.
5:30 AM? Okay. Did Kayla ever show up to drop her child off?
No.
When she didn't show up, did you try calling her?
Yes.
And did you ever get an answer?
No.
Did you go over to her house?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And do you remember approximately what time it was?
I believe it was around 20 after 6.
And when you got to Kayla's home, what did you notice, if anything?
There was a jewelry box laying in the driveway that she had gotten for Christmas from my oldest daughter.
Okay. Do you remember if her car was there?
The car was not there.
Did you, well, what did you do at that point?
I called my daughter to see if she showed up yet or not, and she said no. So I told her I was going back over the house to get the keys, and then I was going to check to my house to get the keys.
Did you try Kayla's front door?
Yes, I did go up and check the front porch door, and it was locked.
Okay. And then what did you do at that point?
That's when I called my daughter and asked if she showed up yet or not, and she said no. So I told her I was going over to the house to get the keys, and I was going to go in.
Okay. Did you go back to your home at that point?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do there?
I got the key to the trailer, and then I went back over there. I unlocked the front door to the porch, tried the bedroom door because the bedroom door was off to the left of the front door. That was locked. So I went to the living room door, unlocked that. When I got into the trailer, it felt warmer than what Kayla usually has her place. I thought that was kind of odd. I checked the back bedroom, nothing unusual. When I went to go through the kitchen, I noticed the nursery door closed,
Okay.
which,
Was that normal or?
no, she never had that closed. So I walked over and I pushed it open. I see her in there.
Take a deep breath.
But she wasn't laying, she was sitting. She was sitting leaning up against the dresser with her legs under the crib. She was facing the crib.
Okay. And did you notice any immediate injuries to her?
Pardon me?
Did you notice any immediate injuries to her?
She had blood that was dried and running down the side of her face.
You said she was sitting up against the dresser.
Yes.
Did you notice, was anything binding her?
She had her hands like this, and her hands were tied with a shoelace real tight. Her hands were purple, and then there was white rope wrapped around that, tying it to the back of her, but having it firm against her waist.
Okay, and just for the record, because the court reporter's trying to take all this down, you're showing your hands in the front of you, kind of crisscross.
Yes, with the right one over the left.
Okay. And you said they were bound tightly?
Tightly with a shoelace that her hands were turning purple.
What color
Well, they were
was the
purple.
shoelace, if you recall?
It was a dark color, I think black.
Now, you said that there was also a white rope?
There was also a white, thick rope that was wrapped around her hands and then tied to the back in a half bow.
Was the white rope, was that tightly around her?
It wasn't really, really tight, but it was tight enough to keep that her hands were to her waist, that she couldn't move them.
Okay. Did you undo any of the ropes that were around her?
After I found her, I seen her hands were purple. I called my daughter, told her to call 911, get the ambulance there immediately, because her breathing, it was like a mechanical, it was horrible, but she was still breathing. And my phone was about ready to die, so I asked her to call, and I went into the kitchen looking for scissors, but I found a knife instead. I couldn't find the scissors. So I cut the shoelaces off of her, and I leaned her forward, and I seen it was a half bow, so I pulled the one, and it came apart, and then she fell over.
Rhys was ultimately found guilty of first-degree murder and accessory after the fact to first-degree murder, and she received a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole on the murder charge, and 30 years on the accessory charge.
All right, I'm going to find that the verdict is in its proper form and it's been signed and dated by the four-person. Madam Clerk, if you'll publish the verdict, please.
Yes, sir. In the Circuit Court in and for Escambia County, Florida, State of Florida versus Mary Barbara Craig Rice, case number 1717CF0011116A. Verdict: as to the charge in count 1, we the jury find the defendant Mary Rice guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. As to the charge in count 2, we the jury find the defendant Mary Rice guilty of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So say we all. Amanda N. Sorrells, four-person, dated September 28th, 2017.
Do any of the attorneys wish the jurors to be polled?
Not
Sentence. Count 1 of the indictment, I'm going to adjudicate her guilty. I'm going to sentence her to life in state prison. She'll have $518 in court costs. She will get credit for 577 days in jail. On count 2, I'm going to adjudicate her guilty. I'm going to sentence her to 30 years state prison. That'll be consecutive to count 1. That'll be the judgment sentence, or she'll get credit for 577 days. That'll be the judgment sentence of the court. She has 30 days in which she can appeal. If she cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed.
We're going to need everyone to exit now.
Michael, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scan it and I'm going to email it, okay?
That's fine. Okay. Or do you have a copy? We'll just go into the email. That's fine.
But I can just email it.
That's fine.
All right. Okay. That's me.
Rice appealed her sentence, but her appeal was rejected in 2019. And that was the case of Billy Boyette and Mary Rice, who changed an untold number of lives over the course of a week in 2017. With the possible exception of Alicia Greer, the murders pretty much amounted to collateral damage, and there was absolutely no need for any of the women to have been killed. It was pure selfishness. These two fuckwits did immeasurable damage with no care for anyone but themselves. Rice is where she belongs, but it is an extra layer of tragedy that Boyette was too much of a coward to face the full weight of the justice system for what he did. This video is of course dedicated to Alicia Greer, Jacqueline Moore, Peggy Bros and Kayla Crocker. I send love and deepest condolences to all those that knew and loved them. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with my twice weekly uploads. Feel free to leave a comment. I genuinely read all of the comments and usually respond, especially if you're nice to me. But with that said, I'm Steve. This here is Samson, and we will see you when we see you.
Say that you're ready, but you won't like it. You say that